I'm Natalie MacDonald and you're watching Dukascopy TV. As most of Europe experiences significant economic decline, Norway's economy is expected to grow a healthy 2.8% in 2013. Here to tell us a little bit more about this today is Erik Bjertnes. Erik, thank you very much for coming in today.
Welcome. Pleasure.
What are the current drivers within the Norwegian economy? Well,
first of all, it's oil and gas. Norway has been earning so much money on oil and gas for so many years, about 3-4 decades. And it hasn't run out yet. In fact, earlier this year, they found some of the biggest reserves in the world. So this will continue for another 70 years, something like that.
There are some concerns that Norway could end up being a victim of its own success. Could you expand on this a little bit for us?
Sure, it depends how they're going to place the money, as they have a huge sovereign fund, perhaps one of the biggest in the world. In 2012, it was $650 billion, roughly. That was an increase of 13% over 2011, and most of it is managed abroad. So what shall they do with that? What they plan to do with that now is to invest into future generations, which is good. But that means us and our children who are living, we will not be able to benefit from that. So there's big political horse trading and debate in Oslo what to do with all that money. There's a big lobby that some money should be spent now on infrastructure, on development and on research, so that Norway can export value-added products instead of earning on the traditional oil and gas and fish. The shipbuilding is already more or less finished because costs are too high. So one way to bring this down is to bring down the costs is to put more money into infrastructure, research and development now, and not just to wait, because then demand will be too high for housing and so on.
One of the big concerns is in fact that of a housing bubble, and this comes as the economy attempts to balance housing prices, which have doubled since 2002, with estimates that household debt will swell to about 200% of disposable income this year. How real do you think this concern is?
Very real. That's why more money has to go into infrastructure and development out of the sovereign fund. So much money could be loaned at very good rates to construction companies to give them incentives. Because right now prices in Norway are getting unbearable. Taxes are very high. People may be getting suffocated because taxes are too high. However, Norway has one of the best welfare systems in the world. You're looked after from the cradle to the grave. And education is paid for. Even a nephew and a niece of mine, I would say of my cousin, children of my cousin, they could not study what they wanted to study in Norway, so the Norwegian government paid for them to do their studies in Australia. And then they came back, and then they brought foreign experience with them, and they got to see how other cultures are, so that's the reason why they do that. But all this costs money. And of course, with the sovereign fund that they have, some money should be spent now and spent on housing. That would be very good. For example, in Oslo, you can get a small 2-bedroom apartment for about $1.2 million, whereas in Drammen, 50 kilometers down the road, you can get a huge house for that. So it's very expensive.
Now, on Sunday, the Norwegian Prime Minister laid out plans for increasing taxes on oil companies. As we've already touched upon, Norway's oil and gas industry really has helped keep unemployment low, public finances intact. Is this the correct move in order to alleviate pressure from struggling mainland industries, or is it just going to be exacerbating oil companies?
Well, I think it will exacerbate oil companies sooner or later. If I was in the Prime Minister's shoes, I would decrease taxes for the people and for corporations outside of the oil fields in Norway, and perhaps increase the taxes on oil companies a little bit, so that that money doesn't go into the sovereign wealth fund. It comes into the economy right now, and it's used for infrastructure, research and development, and not put into programs to employ more people into the government. Right now the government is quite well, what do we say, staffed, or there's a lot of employment in the government, and a lot has to do with the tax collection. There are much more constructive things to do than that over the long term.
Erik, thank you very much for joining us and discussing a not much talked about topic.
Welcome.
That's all we've got time for right now, but coming up next we'll be joined by Roland Dust of Genet & Cie, so don't go away.